Hello, everybody. Tonight I decided to do kind of a spontaneous late night stream. So I was just kind of going through my news feeds that I usually go through. I found this Quibian Linux and I was like, oh, cool, I'll download an ISO of that and install it and play with it online on streaming. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to get this, this thing set up here. And this is literally the first time I've ever seen this, so I don't know a ton about it. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to set up this Quibian Linux and talk through it. And yeah, just something cool for kind of a late night spontaneous stream. Figure the only kind of people that are up this time of night, especially over on the East Coast, probably Linux people. And if you hear the radio in the background, I have the fire radio on because my wife is on a fire call right now. And I had a minor surgery this week, so I am not on active duty. So I'm just kind of sitting and listening while she's on a call. Okay, now this thing is booted up here. Maybe it's booted up. Maybe I need to reset it. Let's reset. Start this up again. I'm doing this in VirtualBox. There we go. And I'll select English. Now we have Quibian. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this, actually. I think it's Quibian. We have Quibian live with safe graphics, install Quibian. Let's just bring up the live one real quick. Just see what it looks like. And I haven't done any research on this thing. I don't actually know anything about this Linux, but let's try it out. No errors found. So this is one of the coolest ways to try out new versions of Linux, is just to use VirtualBox. I have a couple of different virtualization options that I use, like when I'm doing my courses and stuff, but for goofing around, VirtualBox works great. And I've got a black screen here with a cursor, so we'll see what comes up. And I'm going to turn on my chat room view here in case anybody actually comes into the chat room. CAPTCHA stuff to look through here. Just 1 minute.
And no one can take it.
There we go. Now I've got a chat room loaded up that I can look at here. Okay, so we've got a live CD brought up here. First thing I notice is the resolution's a little rough. Let's see if we can change the display settings right off the bat to bring it up here. We should be able to do that. Ooh, system problem right away. There we go. I like that a lot better. Cool. So, looks like this must be like an applications type thing here. And we've got accessories. Let's see what kind of accessories we've got. Actually, let's go ahead and install it. We'll just do an actual install of this. Is it froze? change the Pirate Radio channel here real quick. And put it on the channel that my wife is on. And I'm going to go ahead and bounce the machine again because it became unresponsive. It sent an error message there. Not sure what that error message was, but let's go ahead and bounce it. Quibian. I kind of like the name. I don't like the logo, but I like the name. And this is based on Ubuntu Linux, like 90% of Linux distributions out there. So I figure it should be kind of easy to get around and play with. So far it says no errors found. That's good. And what I'm going to do is install it instead of using the live CD. That could have been part of the problem. And let's see what kind of power I gave this machine. I don't even remember. Okay, so I gave it 16 megs of RAM, but I've only got one processor, so we may change that a little bit. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how quickly it installs. I'll click on install. Quibian 20.04. So far it's super slow. I don't know if it's super slow because it's running in a virtual machine or it's just something else going on, maybe with my underlying machine. But I'm not going to blame Quibian Linux for it yet, but it does seem pretty sluggish and slow. Let's continue in English. There we go. System program detected. I'll give it a little more CPU power. Let's try that really quick. Things are not going well with this so far, I must say. You know, generally when I do these kinds of things, I test them out and I do a quick run through, and I did not do that this time. I just downloaded the ISO. And yeah, let's see. See what we can come up with. Okay. Let's just go down to install Quibian. And I've added 6 CPUs to this thing, so now we've got tons of CPU power. We've got 16 gigs of RAM. That should be perfectly fine for this thing. If it can't run off of that, then something's wrong. And it could be like a virtualization thing, or it could be a garbage version of Linux, but I don't think that's the case. All right, booting up. I may do a more in-depth YouTube video on this one. We'll see. I was looking through the website for a few minutes before I started this, and I couldn't really see what the main purpose of this Linux is about, but we'll check it out some more as it gets loaded and installed, hopefully. There we go. Now we've got our installer again. Click continue. English US. This is pretty common. This is actually just Ubuntu stuff. We're going to do a normal installation. And any of you watching get the added bonus to hear Washington County Fire calls as they come in. Just until I turn it down a little bit here. This is slower than molasses in January. There we go. And we want to erase disk and install Quibian. Obviously this is a virtual machine, so I don't have anything else on here. We'll just wipe it out and go. Los Angeles. My name. Weak password, okay. That one's a little bit better. Okay, it shows it's creating an ext4 file system. That's a good sign, right? Welcome to Ubuntu. It's a little odd. I mean, I know it's based on Ubuntu, but I would think we would change some of these smaller things. Seems to be copying files fairly fast. I'm drinking ice water like crazy tonight because we're going to have triple-digit temps in Oregon. I don't know how much outdoor stuff I'm going to do, but I know it's going to be super hot, so gotta hydrate. One of the things I learned from the fire service about hydration, you know, you check the color of your pee to see how well you're hydrated, but another thing is good hydration starts sometimes a couple of days beforehand. So if you know that you're going to do something extremely physical, like go on a hike or just anything that's like extremely physical, start hydrating about 2 days beforehand. Start just pounding down water because it does take that long for your body to truly get hydrated. It's kind of odd. This is kind of cool, right? Install screen looks pretty familiar. Flying Burrito Brothers. Well, I seem to remember this Ubuntu install screen from an older version, but this said it was like 20.08, so I don't know. We'll find out a little more when it gets installed and rolling. Can't wait to get back to full screen again. This is like a thumbnail. This is the size of screen that we used for years upon years. I ran 800 by 600 through the late 90s, which I think is what this is, and it's hard to imagine now. Of course, I didn't have 28-inch monitors side by side back then either. It was more like 17-inch big CRT that weighed more than my computer. That is an interesting picture of an alligator for Shotwell there. Make sure I am streaming. I'm not sure why, but this just feels old. Maybe it's just the screen resolution that I'm seeing that makes it feel old, but this feels like it's kind of 2010, 2005 installer here. And I can shut off the fire radio because my wife has returned back to the station. I have a feeling this weekend is going to be quite rowdy, and unfortunately I can't respond to any fire calls this weekend, but I've got a bunch of firefighters that are deployed right now to Mosier, Oregon for a wildfire, and then got a heat dry wave coming, so hopefully everybody chills out and doesn't start crazy burn piles or start shooting into things or start weed eating with a metal blade. I have a weed eater with a metal blade that I quit using last month. Those things are pretty good at starting fires. Ubuntu. I've got another version of Ubuntu. It's Ubuntu Studio that I used years ago that was really polished and clean and nice and stable. And so I think I might spin up another VM with that and do a little review, because that is a really cool distro that doesn't seem to get a lot of attention. And really all it is it's Ubuntu with a bunch of video editing and sound editing stuff pre-packaged into it, and it's got kind of a cool little interface. So it's not anything special, but it's kind of neat. And I used it for a few years, especially when I first started doing some video production stuff. I thought, well, I'll try it out, and ended up being really nice. So I'm going to try that out again to see how Ubuntu Studio has done over the years. We're now less than a minute away. Probably a good time to take a quick break. I'll be right back. All right, looks like it's getting pretty close to installing. So I'm guessing, you know, I get a lot of views on these on YouTube and other places after the fact. I don't get a ton of people on the stream, but I get a lot of people that rewatch it later on other platforms. So they have the distinct advantage of being able to fast forward through all this boring stuff. I thought about playing some 8-bit Nintendo for this stream, which is actually super fun. And we'll check a couple forms here. Cool. All right, installation's complete. Let's go ahead and restart. All right, we are powering up. Okay, cool. We are jumping into our brand new Quibian install. Oh, I'm not going to do any of that. I never do any of that. Live patch. Nah. Yeah, we'll send info to canonical. I don't care. Nope, no location services. Done. Okay, let's change these display settings really quick here. Where were we before? I think. There we go. That looks a lot better. Ah, we have a night light. I don't actually notice the difference. So, whatever. Okay, let's look at this screen here. We've got a blank desktop. I don't know if we can create things on here. Let's check. Yes, we can create folders on the desktop. That's cool. That's one of the things that people generally don't like, I've found, in the Linux world, but I'm one of those people that likes it. Oh, look at that. Let's go ahead and report the problem. This could be something the developers could need to know. The add app repository. That is probably related to my network card. There we go. Let's set this to a bridged adapter. Do remind me later. I'm not going to really do the updates right now. So we've got type to search. We don't have any drop-down menu or anything like that. A little odd, but we have an application menu. So I know that there was Firefox on here earlier. There we go. There's Firefox. Let's go ahead and fire that up and we'll check to make sure we've got network access to this thing. And we do. Okay, cool. So while we're here, let's look this up. Let's see what the big sell is for Quibian Linux. Because I honestly don't know. Okay, we've got Think Different, Think Quibian. Little thing to vote for it on DistroWatch. Quibian has all of these tools. Mozilla, Firefox, GIMP, Thunderbird, Zoom, LibreOffice. Okay. Lots of Linux distributions have that. Let's see, Ask Quibian forum. Much obliged to. It's secure. Quibian OS doesn't collect individual information. That's cool to know. So maybe that's a selling point. Secure. Every Linux distribution on the planet says we're secure. So you've really got to dig deep on that just to see. But it says security patches and computer program updates are accessible for a long time to come. That's good. It's made to be used on any device at any time. So right now I'm kind of looking, I'm using like a marketing mind to this. Like, what is the big sell? You know, what's the differentiator? What is the thing about Quibian? I guess the easiest way to say is, why does it exist? And by looking at the front page, it exists because it has these programs, which we get in every version of Linux. It's secure, okay? Privacy, doesn't collect individual information. If that's true, that's cool. That's one of the reasons I use the Linux that I do quite frequently, is because I don't like my information being sent all over the place for marketing purposes. It's my CPU, it's my power. I don't want to necessarily provide marketing data for people while I'm using it. Let's check out the About page. Quibian OS, new Linux operating system based on Ubuntu, is an open source and free software. Currently runs on desktops and servers. Not seeing anything unique yet. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the unique, the big why here. Oriented to education, scientific research, robotics, and software development. That's cool. So, you know, maybe in this package list up here, that might reflect that. Are there any scientific or software development things here? Okay, I don't see anything pre-installed that points to that. So, okay, cool. So they say it's for education, scientific research, robotics, and software development, just like every version of Linux. And I'm not trying to slam these people, and I'm not trying to like slam on this thing. I just want to find out what the why is. One of its main objectives is the reduction of electronic pollution. That's cool. I can get behind that. So that tells me that this must be optimized to possibly use less resources, less power as it's running, which would reduce electronic pollution. So it's made up of multiple software distributed under a free or open source license. Developer community, Quibian team actively participates in development. Cool. Quibian OS is in honor of the indigenous king Nabe Bugle, I'm probably saying that wrong, who defended the Panamanian Islands on the fourth voyage of Christopher Columbus. So that's cool. Got some links to the developers here. Hopefully they don't send me any hate mail. So let's look at this claim here. One of its main objectives is a reduction of electronic pollution. So we know this is an Ubuntu-based OS, right? So there's our terminal. Let's see. Does it have apt? It does. Let's install bashtop. Oh, okay. Let's try snap. It appears to use snap. I really like snap. I mean, I use Arch Linux, as my shirt says, most of the time, and I do not have snap on any of my Arch Linux machines. But I do like snap. I think it's kind of neat. And it's kind of cool to see how it's been progressing. So let's check out bashtop. If you've never used bashtop, it is like the coolest. One of my friends on Twitter posted about it the other day, and I was reminded of how cool bashtop is. So let's see. We've got Firefox open right now. And let's see how much power we're using out of this virtual machine. I've allocated 16 gigs of RAM. We're using 1.6. That's decent. I mean, that's for a desktop with Firefox open, that's a little on the high side, but it's not too bad. I've seen worse out of Linux distributions. We're not hitting the swap, obviously. We've got a lot of free memory here. Let's see what's using all our power. Firefox, GNOME Shell. So I mean, it's not too bad. It doesn't look like we're using a whole lot of CPU power here. So I think I would have to probably put it through its paces and do some compiling or something, maybe some rendering to see if it does that a little more efficiently. And believe it or not, you can do a lot with software. For those of you that go to my website and read my blog quite a bit, I did some features last year on Clear Linux, and it was amazing some of the things that the Clear Linux team had done with software, with just software alone, to make the hardware that it's running on way more efficient and powerful. We're not talking, doubling speeds or anything crazy like that, but there is a lot of stuff that can be done with software and optimization to make things faster and use less resources. So we're not using a ton of resources here. Let's check out the user interface a little bit here. So we'll minimize this. Where does it go? I can't really tell. There we go. So this appears to be a search, but also it brings up the two windows there. So that's okay. I thought it was just a search. And so I was thinking, okay, you got your logo in the corner and you click it and you can search for something. Cool. Thanks a lot, bud. But this, I mean, that's okay. That's not bad. I like menus. I'm still pretty old school. I use Lxde on my main Linux machine, right? So I do a lot of distro hopping, which is something I'm proud of, and I don't care who on Twitter thinks it's a stupid idea, but I hop from Linux distribution to distribution all over the place. But on my main laptop and on the main machine that you're looking at right here, I use Arch Linux with Lxde, which is a really dated, old windowing system, but I like it. I like that I can just click. It's kind of almost Windows-like. I can go down in this lower left-hand side and I can click and I can see accessories, games, system, programming, all that kind of thing. But I'm still open-minded to newer window managers that don't do things like that. It's just not my favorite for being productive. So we've got this logo here. You click on it, you can see the windows that are open. Here, let's look at what comes with the standard install. We've got Archive Manager, Books. I don't know what Books is. Let's click it. Books from your Documents folder will appear here. Okay. That could be PDFs, that could be Mobi files, EPUBs, who knows. Check that out later. So we've got books, calculator, characters, disks. These are all things that you find in every Linux distribution, like characters is kind of cool. If you're looking for a very specific Unicode character for something, you can copy it. And I'll go post this on Twitter or whatever. Does your Unicode stuff. It's kind of cool. We've got documents, files, fonts. Fonts, super important, obviously. Let's check out what fonts we have. I'm a little bit of a font geek. Not as bad as a lot of people out there, but hey, good fonts are cool. And I'm unable to scroll and see which fonts it comes with, but these look nice. It's kind of locking up on me. Why does it do that? Fonts is not responding, so we'll force quit fonts. We don't need fonts. I guess that's too powerful for this machine to handle. So we've got fonts, help, logs. Click on logs. You don't see that very often. Like a GUI program that looks at your logs, that's cool. So system audit, backlog limit exceeded. Don't know what that means. I mean, other than the obvious, maybe I've got too much logs. We were woken up with pull-out set. Also driver problem. That's probably because I'm running on a virtual machine, most likely. Unable to locate the daemon control file. Unreliable DMA position. That could be another virtualization. A lot of these look like they're probably virtualization problems. So let's look at our application logs. Got some GNOME logs. This is obviously GNOME that's running. It's a hacked up change version of GNOME. Trackers. Finish notification. Root timeout. That looks a little weird. Got some system logs. Bunch of kAudit. Okay, kAudit stuff. Security. So one of the things on the website said that they were security-minded distributions. So you can actually make 2 clicks here and find some security logs. Which is cool. Executing command is brute. Window manager warning. So there's a lot of stuff going on in these logs right here. And I think a lot of it probably has to do with being on a virtual machine, but I would have to install it on a bare metal machine and see if it spits out this much stuff right off the bat. And if you're one of those people, which I am one of those people, where if I get an error message frequently every day when I use it, I have to go and copy that error message and search Stack Overflow and find out why it's getting it and try to remove all of them. I've never had a system where I've removed every single informational message and every single error message that's ever come up, but for some strange reason I try. If you're one of those people, this is kind of a cool way to do it. These are some hardware. And you can almost always, I wouldn't say ignore, but you have to take every hardware error with a grain of salt when you're running on a virtual machine, because you don't know if it's an actual hardware problem or if it's something that you misconfigured or if it's something that, Linux distributions are not written for virtual machines. They're written for real machines. So anytime you see these hardware errors, you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt. But this is cool. I like this little logs program they have here as a part of accessories. It seems like it would be more in system tools, but we've got maps, notes. This looks like very similar to the Android app. Call this test. It's not the Android app, but it looks very similar to the Notes application in Android. So that's everything that's here. Oh no, fonts. Fonts broke on us last time. We can't do that. Got to do. USB image writer, kind of cool. Let's try out screenshot. This screenshot looks like most of the screenshot options you would expect. You can grab a window, you can select an area, or grab the whole screen. Let's grab the whole screen after 6 seconds. There we go. PNG. Let's see what happens when we change the extension. Just to mess with it. I don't even know where that went, but documents, pictures, I bet. Yep, there we go. Huh, okay. Cool. Nice little screenshot program. So that's our accessories. I would like to try this out a little bit. The USB image writer. I'm not going to try it now, but I'm always curious what kind of good GUI-based image writers are available for Linux. Because I use DD, mostly because I'm old school. So I really like just DDing images onto USB sticks. And I've done it for so long. I'm just so used to it, and I can't get out of that habit. But I'm always looking for a really good GUI-based image writer. Rufus, when I'm in Windows, Rufus is awesome. Rufus is fast. It's just as fast as DD. You can change a bunch of different options. So I really like Rufus in Windows, but when I'm in Linux, I pretty much just use DD. Just because it's easier. Let's see what kind of games we have here. Got 2048. This is, a ridiculously fun game. Just want to see kind of how responsive it is as I click around here. Those should click into a 4. This should click into a 4. Not super responsive, but we have 2048 here. Yeah, as I said, not super responsive. I'm doing random clicking right now. Okay, we'll back out of that. It has 2048 installed. That is probably one of my favorite games ever. We've got Sudoku, also awesome. Chess and Snake. This one's got me curious. I knew it was going to be ASCII based. That's cool. Totally ASCII based. So if you like the Snake game, it's got an ASCII based one there. It's kind of cool. You can tell I'm a 40-something-year-old geek that used stuff in the 80s and 90s because things like that remind me of the old days are kind of neat for 5 minutes. Let's see, graphics. What do we have for graphics? We've got a scanner. Yeah, I haven't had a scanner since the 90s, so I take that back. We do actually have a scanner here in my house, but my wife's a real estate agent, so that's why we have that. But I don't use scanners a ton, but that's cool that it has it. Got a document viewer, Image Magic, LibreOffice Draw. Really cool program if you're good at it. If you're very artistic and kind of good with vector stuff, LibreOffice Draw is pretty good. For internet, we have Transmission and Firefox. Now, I did see something about Chromium on here, so I'm pretty sure you can install Chromium, which is just the open source version of Go. Transmission is cool. It's a BitTorrent software, so you can use it for software piracy, which I am totally against. I don't pirate anything. I think being a software developer, if you pirate stuff, that's pretty bad. However, the BitTorrent protocol is actually very good for downloading stuff legitimately. A lot of times Linux distributions will have a BitTorrent link, so it's cool that they provide that. Let's see what we have for Office. We've got Calendar, Document Viewer, LibreOffice Calc. Love LibreOffice. It's great. It's one of those things that has progressed a long ways. We have Cheese, Kazam, Music. Cheese says no device found. I was wondering if it was going to pick up my webcam, but I think I probably have to plumb that in. Got music and videos. So pretty complete sound and video. Let's look at system tools. Now this is where things get crazy, right? And if you're like me, you like to tear into the operating system, you like to dink around with stuff. This is kind of cool. So we've got Ubuntu software. Downloadable from the internet, canonical, supported free and open source. So we've got main universe, restricted, multiverse. It's pretty cool. Source code. Main server. Or from a CD-ROM or DVD. Let's see what else we have here. We have, looks like Quibian's branch here. Main restricted, canonical partners. Got some PPAs here. You can add a PPA, which if you're an Ubuntu user, you do that all the time. You'll add different stuff. So this is a pretty user-friendly kind of easy way to do this. All updates, security and recommended updates, security updates only, custom, how often you should check for updates, what you should do if you get a security update. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. This looks like it's some pretty good configuration for some basic Ubuntu stuff. You can import some keys for other providers. Yeah, as I said, if you're an Ubuntu user, you will use this. I mean, you'll definitely import keys for other providers. for custom software. Additional drivers. And it looks like it has found a different driver for my SVGA adapter, which is cool. Considering I'm using VirtualBox. Do pre-released updates. Live patch. See, I wouldn't do live patch mostly because, you need to sign in. That's where they're taking your info. It says right on the website that they don't do that, but yeah. Close that. But that's cool. So I do like that. We have a Deconfederator. I'll be careful. So the this is somewhat like the registry in Windows. Like you can very easily mess things up pretty bad with this. How does this navigate? It's actually a little tricky to see. Does it? Yeah, okay. Disk. So you can edit your decomp from this instead of now I gotta go back to it. So instead of editing it with Vim or whatever, you can edit with this. It's kind of cool. I could see that. Like, oh, my calculator, I want it to change. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So if you're a graphically oriented Linux user, which they are out there, most of us Linux users are a little crazy about the command prompt and just doing, via Emacs to edit all these random text files. But some people really like the GUI, and this is it's pretty cool. I don't want to use a default value. I want to use some other value. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I'm just about to wrap this up. I think I've pretty much looked over this system pretty well. Our live patch stuff. Here's all of our different settings. And one thing I've noticed, this Windows system here is pretty nice. Probably like to find some dark mode, but windowing system seems pretty quick. Seems pretty nice. Got our logs, which we were able to look at in another section. Settings, show desktop, software and updates, language support, firewall configuration. Let's check that out while we're here. Again, this is something I do with a text file, but hey, why not? So, home. Look at that. It makes it pretty easy to add rules and stuff, right? Of course, I click on add and it doesn't do anything. So, there we go. Cool. So you could build some firewall rules here, right? Allow, in and out both, category, subcategory, whatever your application is. Maybe I want Battlefield 1942 to deny everything. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you can, so here's what the advantage is to this. So if you know how to build firewall rules with a text file, say you're a hardcore Linux geek and you only use the command line and Vim or Emacs, that's great. You can go and rip out all your rules and put them all out in the text file. But let's say you're just starting out, or you haven't spent a lot of time studying how to do firewall rules. A GUI like this makes it really intuitive. So all of these different little settings here make it so you can just click, 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 and you can still be protected. So I respect this. I think this is cool. I don't know if I would use a GUI like this on my main system, but I could definitely see the advantage, especially if I were starting out in Linux now, today, instead of back in the 90s. I would love absolutely love something like this. So I think this is really cool. So I think I'm going to wrap this up, my late night crazy Linux trial, by saying that this Linux, I couldn't really find what the point was. Other than the security, we use it for scientific educational purposes, blah, blah, blah. Cool. We don't send your information out. Cool. I'm still kind of digging to see what the main pull is, why somebody would use this. I did see some errors in the beginning that could be related to a virtual machine, not sure. But as far as what they give you here in the accessories, all of the stuff that's given to you pretty much straight out of the box, it's pretty useful. So you could download this, put it on a virtual machine, try it out, and probably get a long ways, make a cool system. Or you could dual boot something on your laptop or something else. I think they give you a lot of GUI-based tools that are useful. And, you know, a lot of people who are like me, you know, I like the command prompt. I like to edit text files. I'm just that way, you know. I barely need a GUI half the time to do most of the stuff. But, you know, people like me are kind of the weird old school people. For people that are just getting into Linux, you know, you want that GUI, you want that nice interface. This provides it, and I respect it. Like, I think it's cool that you can go in here and you could burn a USB stick. You can go in, you can look at all your logs right here from a graphical desktop. So I would say, like, the person that's just starting out with Linux, or maybe you've only been using Linux for a year or two, you want to kind of try it out. This is a really cool distribution. It comes with a lot of stuff. It's pretty complete. Now, most of this is, of course, tied to the Ubuntu underpinnings, so it's all the same stuff you can get with Ubuntu, but I kind of like it. Kind of think it's cool. So this has been my late night random stream where I'm checking this out and checking out Quibian Linux. I'm going to play with it a little more. I'm going to put it on some real hardware and see how that works. But thank you for joining me for my middle of the night crazy stream. And if you like this kind of stuff, I'm probably going to do it more. My late night streams probably will be trying out just random versions of Linux that I find. Thank you for checking out my stream, and subscribe if you like it.